Hello to viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about Sony A1 Mark II. So let's dive deep into it. So the Sony A1 Mark II, it's a refresh of A1 flagship. Now, the idea with Sony is that they have a multiple series cameras. For example, A7 series cameras are hybrid cameras where they are doing the best with the cost constraint. A9 series is high speed camera. R series cameras, A9Rs, those puppies are made for high resolution cameras. Now, but what if you want best of everything? Basically, money is no object and you want to go YOLO. A1 is for those people. Basically, if you want to buy the best Sony has to offer, you will go into A1. So A1 was released in January 2021. This video that we are talking about, it's a refresh of that puppy, the flagship. So that's there. Now, the biggest change that everybody will notice is that the same core is almost the same. The flip out screen has been upgraded. Now, thankfully, at this point in time, almost all flagship cameras have the final perfect flip screen, because here's the deal. People like the idea of tilting screen. They just do not like the idea of tilting screen when you have a lens like this and screen is offset like this. They want the screen access to be maintained. Thankfully, with dual hinge design, you can do that. It does add cost, so it will not be available in cheap cameras, but in all flagships from all brands, this is becoming a de facto standard, where it's like, hey, we get it. Half of people like flip screens, half of like slide out screens. We get it. We're gonna satisfy both of them. So we are very finally happy with that. So on a flagship camera, now you can satisfy everyone. That's good. And the biggest upgrade in terms of actual horsepower, because again the sensor is same, old 50 megapixel stacked sensor, which again is not old as in like 8 years old from Z50. It's old as in like it was only made in January 2021. So they still have that Bionics processor, but the biggest upgrade they had from 2021 is that now they have successfully developed a co-processor, that is AI processing unit. So the idea with this puppy is that the SoC, they will not do much to that SoC, but they will have a second co-processor, like how your computer have a graphics card. This puppy will be the actual heavy duty crunching of autofocus algorithm. Autofocus on Sony is really good, but it was reaching upper limit and Canon did jump over it. So they are like, okay, a co-processor I will add on. So this co-processor finally makes them like on a whole another level, where they're like, we got you, fam. So the SoC takes the off the loading of the AI part, basically the actual autofocus algorithm. This takes care of that, and the SoC has far more free horsepower, which it can be translated into other parts of the speed. So you have much better autofocus. You have pre-capture. I'll talk much further about that. It can do 8K 30 FPS, 50 megapixel at 30 FPS. Now let that be very clear. There are many cameras that can do this sort of stupid number of 20 frame per second, 30 frame per second. But be mindful, especially on cheap cameras, they generally drop the resolution. AKA you can go from RAW file to JPEG, sometimes to compressed JPEG, not even like maximum JPEG that is available, like JPEG small, not JPEG fine. So be very mindful. Doing 30 FPS in RAW, that is still significant. Even though you will find, hey, aren't there cheap cameras that can do 40? Yeah, of course. It's just that not RAW. Now you're like, on that compressed RAW? Compressed RAW is still better than JPEGs. So it is really good flagship offering from Sony, where it's like, buy this camera if you want the best Sony has to offer in terms of speed and in terms of resolution. And it is truly that high caliber. Again, according to Sony's portfolio. So what are the improvements? Well, fundamental improvement that is like, day and night difference is the pre-capture. Now, pre-capture is a very new technological development of mirrorless cameras, is the fact that we no longer rely on shutter. It's like, hey, what if it's just a video camera? So what if we have a buffer in a camera? So what if when you half press, it starts taking photos? Like, okay, wouldn't that make too much memory? Yes, but you are looping it, meaning you see a bird, you're like, bird is coming to land. You're like, okay, the moment it land, but you looked at the bird, you half pressed, you already focused everything, but camera started take photos. Camera is like, I got you, fam. Camera is taking photo. How many? 30 raw files. So where does that raw file go? That raw file goes into RAM or buffer. So there is there, and you take 30, but after 1 second, 2 seconds, like 1 second is like the whole length. So it's like taking 30. And then what happens after that? Well, it deletes the backwards one. So it keeps deleting. And then you see the bird does finally what it wanted to do, and you press the shutter. Voila. All the file that was in the buffer stops, dumps into your card. So voila. Now you have, from your moment of pressing the button, you have 1 second before. So it's what we call pre-capture. Now this is exactly the same how high-speed camera works. Nobody press high speed, it's like something happened high speed. No, it's like it's always recording. Again, after arming the system, armed, is recording, and when boom happened, stop. So pre-capture, same here. You half press, that is arming the system, it starts taking photos, and the moment things happen, you're like, done, and it gives 1 second back. Now, is 1 second enough? Yes, still human reaction time is generally in quarter second. So quarter second is in like um, if you can have 1 second, that gives you more than enough time where it's like something happened, your brain detected it, your brain thought about it, your brain processed it, and then you press the second. Yeah, 1 second is more than enough. Like you good. If you're missing things after 1 second of buffer, yeah, problem is with you. So that's there. Now, what was the biggest weak link of A1? A1, while it was very good and Sony really had very good autofocus, at that time Canon released something even better. Canon was like, hey, we get Sony's reliable, trustworthy eye autofocus. We do you one better. We do subject detect autofocus, meaning it can figure out whether it's looking at a bird, and then it's like, okay, I'm gonna fine tune the algorithm for bird. It's looking at a car, I'm gonna fine tune for a car. And Sony had that, but problem with like last version of this is that it can do that as long as you select it. Meaning, if you're like, hey, I'm gonna do car photography, boom, set to car, camera is like, I got you, fam, it's awesome. But the moment you go from car to person, it's like, why this car is behaving like a person? It does not know. So that time where people will like, you know what, the autofocus is messy. Basically, the autofocus algorithm is awesome. It's just that selection of that algorithm is based on the consumer. Basically, you have to set it. So it goes back in the old days of DSLR where you had settings and all that. Having an AI co-chip, it allows this ability. It's like AI is like, I got you, fam. Let me worry about it. I got the autofocus. That part is sorted. It's just that what am I looking at? Am I looking at a person? Am I looking at a card? Am I looking at a bird? All that is now sorted by AI itself. You do not have to worry about it. And it is good. And again, AI is actually very good when it has a very specific task. AI is horrendous when it needs to do everything. It's very good if you're like, hey, just do object classification. It's like, I got you, fam. It is very good. And not to mention, in the previous iteration, which was released in 2021, it was only applicable to still photography, not in video. Here it's like stills and video. You good. Meaning, at this point in time, you will no longer feel like Canon has better. At this point, it's like, you know, they are so close to each other. Again, you can do nitpicking till your heart's content, but both of them are like, we got you. We got you. Meaning, if you are having an issue, there is a very good chance either you have something seriously messed up configuration or you have a defective equipment. So that is a good upgrade. People will notice, like that upgrade is something people will notice. Pre-burst, people will notice. AI is subjected auto detection, people will notice. And IBUS has a lot of improvement. This is the part where like engineers sat down. It's like, okay, last 3 years, I think we had developed some new algorithms, some voice coil motors. So these puppies have been improved. How much? Well, on paper, it's going from 5 stops to 7 stop. What does that mean in real life? People are doing long exposure photography handheld, and it's working reliably. Again and again, it is actually good. Meaning, if you have a lens that has image stabilization, you have a body that has IBUS like this puppy, both of them working together can give you really good results. Like, dang, good. So that's there. Now LAN has been upgraded. Now, like, wait a minute, does the camera actually has a LAN, and who actually uses it? There are a very select group of people that actually need it and use it, and yes, they are there. That's why this puppy is there. And yes, it's present in Nikon, Canon, and Sony. It's a elite group of photographers, but they do need it. Sony is like, what if I do you one better? So Ethernet is kind of stuck. So, and again, computer networking directly jumped to the Ethernet and we went to fiber. But again, this also got some upgrade. There was 1 Gbps, 10 Gbps. Nobody did 10 Gbps, directly jumped into optical fiber. So that got stuck. So to solve that, now we have 2.5 Gbps and 5 Gbps. So they are like, okay, we are upgrading from 1 Gbps to 2.5 Gbps. What does that mean? That simply means instead of transfer limit of 100 megabytes per second, you can get 250 megabytes per second. That is big enough difference. When you are dumping the whole card content, it will be significant time save. And be very mindful, money does not buy time, money only buys speed. So for select few people, not a lot of photographers, let that be very clear, the group list is very tight, but for those people who need this is like, damn, there is not a single other camera that has even half of the speed. So that is a big jump. That's just like a flexing jump. Some engineers like, sir, we figured out SoC has enough crunch power. We can do the data logging and all that required frequency and all that. It's like, okay, just add it. So that's there. And the USB, again, this USB is not as amazing. Other cameras do have, even in Sony's lineup and in other branch also, where they have 10 Gbps. The default is 5, which is 500 megabytes per second, and this goes up to 1 gigabytes per second, aka 10 gigabits. So this puppy, now again, I do hate these three companies, Sony, Nikon and Canon. They will never give you a SSD recording because again, they hate the customer. Thankfully, Panasonic does that, and Blackmagic does that. Trust me, if you once you start to get experience of SSD recording, especially for video, especially for daily workloads, you would be shocked how much your life could be improved if we had that. You will hate the card logic. Cards are expensive, short-lived. You can have a SSD that is far higher quality because again, it's not size constraint. Even the power constraint is not an issue. Size is the main issue and thermal output. So you can have a SSD that is like, I am 4 times faster. You can easily do like, I'm happy at least Panasonic does that. I thought there was a one point where Nikon might do it, but that's the painful. Again, even Apple understood it. Apple gives you that you can directly connect a 10 Gbps SSD and do ProRes recording into that SSD. Apple understood it. These companies did not. So, but at least this means you do not have to buy a card reader. You can just use the camera as a good card reader. So that's there. And stills are exactly the same. Basically all the spec is exactly like A1. The resolution, speeds and all that, you do not have to do too much about it. It's same 4K 30, and electronic shutter is still limited to 30, and mechanical shutter to 10. Now it has even audio memo recording, which again high-end cameras do have that, because if you are doing a lot of things, the photos will become a mess. How would you know what you're supposed to capture? So you can record a memo when you are scrolling back and looking, but you have to do it during the shoot time. Then it will be a much easier experience when you are actually sorting the files. So there are improvement. There are a lot of quality of service improvement. Basically, Mark 1 versus Mark 2 is not like whoa, but Mark 1 to Mark 2 is like, I got you, man. Like I had the horsepower, now I have the steering. I got this. So that's there. Now here's the deal. At this point in time, it looks like a freaking placeholder camera. Now, be mindful, Sony has experience of doing this, history of doing this. They had done the same thing with Sony A9 Mk2. A9 Mark 1 was really good for its time. It was like, damn. But by the time they released Mark 2, it was like, hey, they barely changed anything. Like you needed the Excel spreadsheet to like what actually changed. It was like surprisingly under the radar. It's like, it was Mark 2, but it was not really Mark 2. It was just like Mark 1 with some quality of service improvement. So same thing happened here. They did not added any new technology. All they had is like, hey, all the new things we developed after the release of A1, all of them now packed into A1 Mark 2. So it felt really underwhelming. Why compare that A9 Mark 2 to Mark 3? They went from rolling shutter to global shutter, which was like the biggest whoa moment. So not having something like that was like, not even a single spec was upgraded. Not even a single thing is like, this could not have been done to like, whoa. Now again, pre-capture is a thing like that. But again, pre-capture is more of like, oh, now you have a better SoC. So that's there. However, let that be very clear, while all these things look like just Sony is like, okay, 3 years have passed. Now let's refresh this lineup. And if anybody else in the ecosystem was like, okay, I want to upgrade from, let's say, A7 Mark IV to like, A1, now they have a better A1 to go into. Cool, awesome for Sony people. But one good upgrade that happened is that because European Union passed the law of having USB-C in everything, and yes, it's not mobile phone only, everything, including laptops, including anything that consumes around 240 watts. So they have finally updated the chargers. Now again, because these camera companies never upgraded from 1990s, I have no idea why the heck their lithium ion chemistry takes freaking 100, basically 180 minutes to charge. It's like lithium ion is by chemistry law is designed for 1C. 1C means 1 hour charging time. 2C means 30. It goes exponentially like that. So it's like, at least charge it in like, 0 to 80% as quickly as possible. That's why your mobile phone only goes 0 to 80% in like 10 minutes, 20 minutes or something like that. And then it takes 1 hour to fully charge. Even that would be there. And again, action cameras have already got caught up to that. They haven't. But again, compared to their old system where they had giant brick, which was AC brick, now they have a DC. Now benefit, penalty, you have to buy a DC brick, but here's the deal, you have it. Your mobile phone already has it. It's like it requires power delivery. That was also done by law. Not only USB-C, but power delivery also. So every mobile charger has power delivery. Now, does every charger has full power requirement of this? Yeah, especially if it's a big one. Most likely it has it. 30 watts of power delivery is like basic. So, and if you have a laptop power brick, yeah, it's that puppy is rated for 60 watts or 120 watts. And again, if you're current Gen 1, that puppy is 240 watts. So don't worry about it. There is a very good chance all the high power mobile charger you have can already charge this. And both of these battery can be charged simultaneously. That's a big thing for them. It's like, we can charge them same time. I'm like, we had third-party charger that could have done that in 2010. But again, I'm happy. And you're like, why two? Well, because if you're using this sort of pro camera, there is a very good chance you are using battery grip. Battery grip drains two battery at the same time. So you can do that. And again, that also means you can charge this with a battery bank. If you have a power bank that is power delivery certified, you should be able to have a big power bank that charges these two battery. So it's a good upgrade. And yes, for this sort of camera, they are like, okay, it's included in the box. I'm like, thank you. Although not second battery not included. Why? But okay. And again, this is one other good is that's all Sony full frame is this battery. So you can enjoy this charger. If a A7 Mark 4, Mark 5 will not come with this system, but you can buy it. And again, batteries and chargers are one of those things because it has the potential of catching on fire and going boom. People do not cut cost on that. So you may want to buy into this. And again, I'm happy that it finally started to look like it has been made in 2020 rather than 1950. So I'm happy with that. And current market is too hot. When Sony did that A9 Mark II, it was not that competitive market. Sony still had that mirrorless edge. Now the market is too goddamn hot for this sort of cold release. It's like, bro, this is good. This is comparatively what everybody else has. Yes, Sony, Nikon and Panasonic and all that. This is good. But then this is not good. This is very cooled. Where it's like, whew. So, and be mindful, just before this, they had a 9 series upgrade, which went from rolling shutter to global shutter, which was like, whoa. Whoa. Oh, and the Trump photo, that's global shutter. Now, what about the competition? Well, this is the whole point. This whole camera release is not for people who are not in Sony ecosystem to look into like, whoa, Sony has something. Because be mindful, photography generally has two vectors. Quality of the photo and the moment of the photo, meaning when did you click it. So for certain scenarios, you need that as fast as possible. Sports photography, because again, it's all about the moment, not the quality. Nobody's gonna complain. It's like, oh, the ISO is too high and like, but like again, do you have the perfect moment? Yes. Nobody cares about ISO. So that's his moment photography. Again, same thing happened with Trump photography. That photo, I'm like, damn, that's the reason why he's the president. It's like that was done in A9 Mark III. So it's a moment. Now, again, if you are doing a fixed scenario, like you are doing a product photography, you are doing a model photography, those time you want the quality of photo. So these are two independent vector. But A9 Mark III is like, okay, I am not the greatest photo. I'm not going to give you the quality of photo. But in terms of speed, there is nothing in this planet at this point in time that can match up to my ability. Meaning, if you are sports photography and you want to go, it's a camera is like, bro, I got this. 120. No rolling shutter, not low rolling shutter, no rolling shutter. So those were like very attractive to a lot of people, especially who wanted that moment. They're like, I need that moment capture, especially if they had to deal with indoor lighting and flickers and all that. They're like, shut up, take money. So that's a good thing. This is like, if you're already in Sony ecosystem, you were thinking about upgrading to A1, now you have a better A1 to upgrade to. Not like, whoa, now people are thinking about switching to Sony. It's not like that. This is very cold. This is basically A1 for 2024 with better quality of service. And yes, it's a good thing to have. Yes, it's a good thing to have a better flip out screen. Yes, it's a good thing to have a pre-capture. Yes, it's a good thing to have a better AI algorithm. That's good. But none of that is like, whoa, other than flip screen. So there. Now, how does it compare to other things? For example, EOS R5 Mark II, which was just released few years, which is cheaper, that puppy goes 8K. Okay. That goes 8K 60. Okay. That goes 8K 60 raw. Yeah. Not 422 10-bit. No, that goes raw. And be mindful because Nikon actually bought it. So Nikon has even better raw in their Z8. It goes 8K 30 only because you have to go to Z9 for 60, I think. And they have NRAW because again, they already bought the red camera company. So licensing and patents are no longer an issue. So they have it. So both of them, basically Nikon and Canon, can give you 8K, can give you higher resolution, can give you for cheaper price. And both of them have better output compared to your limited output. Again, that's on 8K. And other things also, that pre-capture, the Sony is doing pre-capture. Yeah, here's deal. Canon's cheapest camera can do pre-capture. Here's deal. It's not a raw. So that is a penalty. But again, at least you can do that for cheap price. So that's there. And one of the biggest advantage that both these companies have, Nikon and Canon, is that they are using logical type card format, not this retarded card A, the logical card B. And card B, again, here's the look at the price of 1 TB of card on that. You would be shocked how expensive it is. You can buy 4 of these for price of one. It's 4x more expensive. So it's cheaper to buy these cameras because of the card. And be mindful, it should not have mattered if we had all of us have just agreed to basically SSD recording, but we could not have nice things. All of these are available. And again, why this cards are so cheaper even though it's more expensive? Well, the more basically it has more PCI lane. This has PCI lane 1, this has PCI lane 2. Basically 1 lane versus 2 lane. This is used by every company like Sony FX has that. Again, Sony made this card format. I have no idea what they were smoking to jump into this. They are the one made this. You must have heard it. It's called XQD. So they made this. Sony made this. Sony abandoned it for this BS, and Canon using it, Nikon using it. Canon, Nikon, Sony FX is using it. Panasonic is using it. Fuji is using it. So because so many companies are using it, there is a lot of mass production. There is a lot of competition. Prices are very down compared to this. And again, these are much faster. So not only, even if your camera does not need that speed, you can dump that memory into your computer much quicker. Again, 1 PCI lane versus 2 PCI lane. 2 is double the speed. So this is really frustrating. So at this point in time, if they do not refresh quickly, they will get left behind. Now, at this point in time, I'm genuinely worried because again, I wanted to buy a new camera and lens setup. I have the finance sorted. I'm just waiting for A7 Mark V. But at this launch, it gives me a very poor faith that Sony will release A7 Mark V that can do 4K 60 without crop. Again, I do not need 4K 60, but I want a camera that's a full frame camera that can do full frame 60. Again, for sports and like, some bird photography and all that, videography and all that. I hate that fear. But again, if Sony just does not improve, I'm like, okay, might as well buy Canon. Lenses are a bit more tedious, but I will be fine. I think I can live by it. So this is the competitive market. I'm really shocked that Sony is doing this in this hot of a competitive market. I genuinely hope that next release, which most likely will be A7 Mark V, is better next year. So this was my presentation with A1 Mark II. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please hit the like button, share it amongst a friend. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra point. But please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.